London, the JSE All Share index has fallen by 1% after two strong sessions as global sentiment soured. This amid nervousness ahead of a key U.S. jobs report due out later today. Lesedi Mabuza from Sentio Capital Equity, as an equity analyst there, in fact, joins us now to talk about how things are looking on this Friday. Lesedi, good to see you again. The local currency and the markets continuing, as I was saying, to slide in midday trade. Should we expect this to go on then into the next week?
I think into next week, our local markets could either go two ways. I mean, going into next week, you are seeing the U.S. earnings season start, which would give us more insight into what's happening with the companies there and what the consumer state is. But I think a key indicator next week is the USCP inflation print that comes out for June next week. Obviously, if it does come below what the market expects, that would be positive, and that would take our market higher. But if you are still seeing persistent inflation in the U.S., especially with the aggressive rate hikes that you've seen from the Federal Reserve Bank, that will definitely take our markets lower, reaffirming those recession fears.
And oil prices, they appear to be losing ground while gold is edging higher. What sentiment is driving those moves?
I guess with oil, you are seeing it lower, which at about $104 per barrel, mainly Brent crude oil. And the main reason behind that is you are seeing more recession fears outweighing your growth fears. With a lot of the aggressive Fed hikes that you've seen globally, and with more to come, it doesn't bode well for oil because obviously in a recession, people aren't consuming as much oil, people aren't driving around. So it is definitely weighing on sentiment with oil. And just going into next week with that inflation data would be something to look out for the oil price. But locally, it is good for us. Hopefully, it stays down longer, especially with these fuel prices that we're currently paying.
And you mentioned consumption. I want to ask you then about world food prices easing, declining, I think, to 154.2. That was in June. What's influencing the drop, and what does it mean in reality?
So what started the increase in the first place was the Ukraine-Russian war, which saw a lot of commodities come out of the market, mainly your sunflower oil, which comes from Ukraine, and a lot of grain commodities, which come from Russia. So the world's food prices fell for the third consecutive month, and it doesn't mean that it is lower than last year. You are still seeing it higher than last year, but it is coming down towards the time before the Ukraine invasion started. And just looking in that index, a lot of the commodities that are coming down are the likes of vegetable oil. And the driver for that was Indonesia, which is a large producer of palm oil. They completely stopped their exports of palm oil, and they make up about 50% of the market. And that was for them to resolve their own internal inflation and supply issues in the country. So them coming back online and supplying into the global market has brought the pressures of vegetable oil coming down. And you're also seeing the likes of sugar and cotton prices come down. But the one that's still elevated is global grain prices such as corn and wheat. And that is because a lot of the corn and wheat that supplies the world comes from Russia and Ukraine, and that can't come out there. That supply isn't coming out to the world.
Let's end with this. VW announcing plans to invest more than 20 billion euros in a battery cell business. Why now, and how would that work?
Well, the reason why they're doing it now is it's part of their plan to outperform Tesla. I think Tesla is everyone's goal in terms of gaining market share and in terms of sales. So the reason for this, this battery oil business investment will help the group also efficiently get their own consistent supply of battery cells in order for them to produce their EV car vehicles. Because there was a plan to source the EV batteries from Asia, but with the pandemic, I think VW saw that supply chains did cause a big issue for the automotive market in general. So they plan to do an internal company and just have a consistent supply of EV vehicles, which is expected to be coming on by about 2030, sorry. And even this factory that they are building will be a direct competitor to Tesla's Gigafactory cell business as well.
Lesedi Mabuza, pleasure to speak to you. Thank you very much. Lesedi is with Sentio Capital, where she's an equity analyst, wrapping up our focus on the markets for this week.